Today, Bitcoin notches its first positive week in over a month. Congress passes a bill to roll back a contentious SEC rule focused on crypto holdings. And Exodus CEO JP Richardson updates us on the SEC review that delayed the crypto wallet company's debut on the NYSE American exchange. Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World. I'm Tanea McKeel. Cryptocurrencies are on the rise this morning, adding to a week of big gains. By noon Eastern, Bitcoin rose to $67,000, a 2% increase in the past 24 hours. At the same time, Ether climbed more than 5% to $3,100, and Solana also got a boost, rising to just under $170. Crypto investors latched onto the latest inflation data out this week, which showed that price increases are slowing. That, of course, bolstered hopes that the Fed might be more inclined to cut rates, which investors, including crypto investors, have been waiting for. I mentioned that it's been a pretty good week for crypto, with Bitcoin jumping nearly 11% in the past 7 days. The cryptocurrency is having its best week since the start of March and is on pace to break a 6-week losing streak. Ether rose a slightly more modest 7%, but that still makes it its first winning week in 3 and its best week since early March as well. Compare that to the S&P 500, which looks set to close out the week about 1.5% higher. Okay, let's talk about the top stories. Congress has passed a bill to roll back an SEC guideline for businesses holding crypto. The rule, SAB 121, took effect in 2022 and requires companies holding crypto assets to report them both as a liability and as an asset. Some have argued SAB 121 creates confusing or restrictive accounting standards for companies wanting to deal in crypto. The SEC, meanwhile, argues those rules help fend off technological, legal, and regulatory risks that the agency says aren't present in safeguarding non-crypto assets. Republican Senator Cynthia Lummis, who's famously pro-crypto, said it was the first time Congress had passed standalone crypto legislation. She also called the passage of the bill a win for financial innovation and a rebuke of the way the Biden administration and Gary Gensler have persecuted crypto. Speaking of the president, it now heads to his desk, either to sign or veto. Next, Hong Kong is launching a pilot to let residents use the digital yuan. This morning, the region's monetary authority announced a partnership with the People's Bank of China to expand a pilot program for the ECNY, letting Hong Kong residents set up digital wallets from China's central bank. Residents can use those wallets for cross-boundary payments with mainland China, but can't be used for person-to-person payments. China launched its central bank digital currency as a pilot program in 2020. Since then, usage of ECNY has steadily expanded access to new regions across the country. The Atlantic Council estimates about 260 million users across China now use the CBDC. All right, let's talk about Exodus for our main story. The company behind Exodus Wallet was supposed to list on the New York Stock Exchange American exchange last week, but an SEC review put that debut on hold. JP Richardson, the company's CEO, spoke to Crypto World's Jordan Smith about that delay. He also weighs in on the rate of adoption for self-custody wallets.
JP, thank you so much for joining me. I want to start with Exodus's public debut. You were supposed to list on the NYSE American exchange last week. That was put on pause pending an SEC review. Can you talk to me about where things stand right now in that process and sort of what your expectations are going forward?
Absolutely. So thank you for having me. So yeah, as you mentioned, NYSE, they called us the day before and they said they had to pull the listing until the SEC completes our review. So naturally, since we are a public company already, we are going to continue to work with the SEC on the SEC to complete our review. But the exciting part for us is that in Q1, we just came off of the biggest quarter yet. And that moment allowed the team to fly out to New York and celebrate the moment regardless of having a really record-setting quarter of $29 million in revenue.
Yeah, I want to talk about the company itself and sort of what it feels like in the crypto industry right now in just a second. But just to put a final point on what's going on with that review, did the SEC give you any sort of information on what they're looking into or what the process would be like, how long it would take? And I guess also separate from that, once you do get a final answer from there, I'm assuming that you intend to move forward as normal, as long as everything comes up clean.
Yeah, the communication on this particular listing came from the New York Stock Exchange directly. And so we're just continuing to work with the SEC on the review. And so the review is just standard for this actual listing and filing. So no, we haven't had anything from the SEC specific to the listing. It's just par for the course of empowering the SEC to finish their review.
Understood. Let's talk about the company, especially in this time we're in right now, where we've had a really huge comeback for crypto so far in 2024. We're seeing a rally right now this week. But for your business specifically, what has 2024 looked like for you, given this sort of return of interest for crypto?
Yeah, as mentioned, record-setting quarter of 29 million in revenue, which is 118% year over year. And so what we're seeing right now is consumers, again, are really excited about digital assets, Bitcoin in particular. We all saw that the Bitcoin ETFs were approved in early of 2024. And so this has driven a lot of excitement and interest in the industry, in Exodus entirely. So it's really fun to watch and see the growth of the industry and our company in particular.
Yeah, I want to talk about sort of adoption in the industry overall, because one of the things that we saw after the collapse of FTX and the bankruptcies and the uncertainty around banking in general in March of 2023 was this mantra of not your keys, not your crypto. Everybody look into cold storage wallets. Talk about for you what adoption looked like after all of those events. If really people took that to heart and started looking into cold storage wallets, did people sort of listen to that advice?
Absolutely. So back in November of 2022, when FTX collapsed, people were using FTX, people were excited about FTX, but when that smacked the industry in the face to wake people up that when you use products like exchanges like FTX, you are putting your money at the risk of another institution, another custodian. So when you use a product like Exodus, it's 100% self-custodial, so you have control of your assets. So back in November of 2022, we had record-setting adoption of people coming in and downloading Exodus and using Exodus up until this last quarter of Q1 of 2024. So yeah, we've seen a lot of adoption since that moment.
Reuters had a story out, I believe it was yesterday, that talked about how these services that help people get back into their wallets are sort of having a boom right now because so many people are paying attention to the rally in crypto. They're trying to get their funds back. But that made me think about this question around what consumer or retail investor education looks like, and if they're more knowledgeable in this cycle than they were last time. For your business, are the types of customers or the investors that you're seeing showing a little more savviness when it comes to crypto in this cycle?
Absolutely. So crypto and Bitcoin in particular, these assets have been around for quite some time. So that education has made its way to the mainstream, but there's still a lot of work to be done. And so that's why Exodus is a company, we have a YouTube channel where we educate people on how to use cryptocurrency, how to use self-custodial products, and more importantly, how to secure your self-custodial assets. So we are seeing a little more savviness, but there's still, I think, more opportunity to do more education in this space.
I want to ask about regulation, separate from what we talked about earlier, more just the regulatory environment in the U.S. right now. Obviously, there's a lot of enforcement action going on right now, but there's also hope around potential crypto bills moving forward in the House. Patrick McHenry just this week said that we could see a floor vote on his crypto bill. Are you optimistic about where regulation is in the U.S. this year? If we'll make good headway before the election, which will pretty much put everything on pause once we get closer to November?
Absolutely. I think what people are seeing is that there are 50 million Americans that own cryptocurrency. And so it doesn't matter if a person's a Republican or Democrat, it's cryptocurrency is becoming a popular thing amongst Americans. So I'm confident that politicians, as we get closer to the election, are going to start to realize this more and more and more. And it will become a hot issue for the election. And again, I think more and more politicians will embrace cryptocurrency since Americans have embraced cryptocurrency.
Okay, that's all for Crypto World this week. We'll be back on Monday, and we'll see you then.